guys, I'm Stephanie Weaver and welcome back to my studio. What we're going to be doing this week is applying another layer of burnt sienna onto our panel. So we've probably accomplished quite a bit of details in the first week. So this one we're going to round it out and finish those details before we can start glazing on paint. So some of the questions that I've gotten in the past about this technique is, do I do this for every single painting? The answer is no. I don't do this for every single painting, and it's not really required for every single painting, but it is helpful in understanding like the values, and I do recommend that every beginning student start with this technique because it really helps you understand the overall values and help you understand some of the basic techniques that we're talking through. And today's, what we're really going to talk through is hard, soft edges and what's like diffused or lost edges. And we're going to talk through those and really identify where those exist in our painting so that you can control the viewer's eye. That's kind of what happens behind that reasoning, why we want soft and diffused and then hard edges. So what happens with hard edges is that's where your eye is naturally drawn to, because with hard edges that creates focus in your painting. And so that's what we're going to do here, is we're going to identify where we want the focus, and you need to identify where you want your focus to be on your particular painting. And it could be really, it's up to your choice. That's the beauty of this. And you don't necessarily have to make it look like the picture in terms of focus, but it's something that you can identify yourself. Which also comes in handy because sometimes with photography, there's a settings on in photography that allow you to control the focus. And then sometimes with landscapes, what photography artists will do is they will make the whole scene in focus. So as an artist, maybe you want one particular area to be in focus, and so you can control that using hard and soft edges. So that's what we're really going to do and focus on here today, is defining those hard and soft edges and refining our values. The other thing that I'm going to focus on today is because in the first round of painting, this was so wet that I couldn't really get nice smooth edges like I would want. Like there's a really kind of rough transition between the dark tone and the medium tone. And I want to smooth that transition out so it makes it look more three-dimensional, more egg-shaped, instead of like an egg that's been dropped on the floor, hard-boiled egg that's been dropped on the floor. Which that might be in itself kind of a cool technique and something to do, but right now that's not what I'm wanting to achieve with this painting. So I'm going to work on that. All right. So I still have my reference image. I'm still using burnt sienna, and I'm still using Gamsol. That's it. That's all we really need. Well, you need paintbrushes, but I think you need that one. So anyway, one of the other questions that I get besides the question is, do I do this every single time? Which is, the answer is no. The other question is, so if you do this, how many paintings do you work on at once? And so like, I've got this big wall behind me, and every one of those is a work in progress. So I do float between one painting and another because sometimes I get bored with a painting. I mean, seriously, we're painting eggs in a towel. It's not that fun, but it's an exercise and it's purposeful. Meanwhile, I've got projects back here that I actually do consider fun and extremely time consuming. They're like huge, and there's still going to be points in time that even though they're like really, really cool and interesting to me, I'm going to get so bored of it. So I do flip around quite a bit, and I encourage you to do that too, because here's the thing. You're going to have to wait for things to dry. So why not work on multiple projects, and that way you can still continue to practice and paint and really get a feel for how the paint works, how you work, and how colors work. All right, so enough talking. Let's go ahead and start painting on this. And like I said before, what we're really going to do is, again, work from darks and move to lights. The first thing I'm thinking about is where I want your focus to be. So with a hard edge, I'm thinking right here. I want a nice hard edge right here. And it's almost in the center, but it's not quite in the center. I don't want things really kind of smack dab in the center. It's just composition. We'll talk about composition in another series. But right now, I want a hard edge here. And this is what's diffused edge. I want this one going softly into the background. So it's going to be really nice and soft. And that's very similar to our reference photo. Like if you see here, I can barely see this. That is a part of the towel that I can barely see. And I'm going to lose that edge, diffuse the edge. Okay. There's another nice soft, a hard edge right about here that I'll bring in. And that's the hard edge right there, as you can see here. It brings in from the highlight into the dark. So that's a really nice one that I'm going to add in there. Okay, this has got a nice soft, like diffused edge that goes from this transition into here. And this one has a nice diffused edge that runs off the page. Okay, so these are my diffused edges that I'm going to add in, which runs off the page. And then I've got another soft edge. So where I'm going to put a hard edge, for example, here. On the opposite side, I'm going to put a soft edge. And how you do a soft edge is you just kind of muddy it a little bit. When I say muddy it, I should say it just kind of, it's a soft edge. You can't see a hard line. It's almost feathered into the background. So that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to first start with my darks. So I'm just grabbing the burnt sienna. I didn't have any medium other than the Gamsol that I did dip my brush in and wipe it off a little bit. So let's see, I'm going to go right about here. Create a soft hard edge. And I'm going back over the darker areas because it is completely dry. Oops, lost my picture. Okay. I'm going to thin it down a little bit and go over this right here. Sure, I've got my reflective light happening here. I'm just lifting off some of that paint, bringing it around. And I'm going to soften this just a little bit right in here. There we go. Okay, now if you notice this tone right here is almost the same as this tone right here. So that's what's going to help that one kind of get lost, that diffused edge. There we go. And I just lost this edge to the egg into the towel right there. And that's fine. Looks like it's all nestled in a nice fold, like that. All right, so I'm going to continue on, still adding in my darks. I'm going to define this one right here. Okay, nice hard edge there. Let's get another hard edge down here. So if you notice what I did there, I made a hard edge on this side, and then the opposite side I made another hard edge. That's one of the things that's going to help it look a little more three-dimensional as well, is opposing sides and then having a hard edge, and then that means that because opposing sides are having a hard edge, I'm going to have adjacent sides have a soft edge. I'm just going to soften this just a little bit using a dry brush. Kind of blend that in, taking the dark and moving it into the light. And how I'm just softening it is just tapping it into the already dried area. There we go. It looks good and nestled too. Accentuate this right here. Yeah, that made it look better. So what I was thinking there is I saw this really light highlight right here, and where there's light there's dark, so I wanted to bring this one a little bit darker. And this is where that artistic license comes into play, because you know I don't really see that in the picture, but I'm thinking that. So, and you get to do that too. You can like change things and make it look the way you want it to look. That's why I like working from photos actually, so I can try and make things look better in the painting than they do in the photo. Okay. All right, continuing in my darks. Actually, I see something here that bothers me slightly. I'm going to soften that one. Okay. Let's get a nice hard edge in here and down here. Move this down slightly. There you go. That way you can see the whole egg. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's got a hard edge up here. soft edge that blends in a little bit right there. So let's see. And this actually has a diffused edge that goes into the shadow area. I'll soften a little bit. Occasionally wiping off my brush if it's pulling in a little too much paint. Let's get a nice hard edge right there. But I want to deepen up a little bit. Deepen it up, I'm just adding a little bit more paint. Okay. Let's soften this edge, that line. All right. Now working on this one. It's got a dark edge there. And he's got another one right down here. Redefine my core shadow. Add a little bit of Gamsol to my brush because it was getting a little bit too stiff. So I'm going to add a little Gamsol and work on moving the paint that's already on here. softening my edges a little bit between the transitions between medium and dark values. There we go. And this fold that's happening right in here, right now I've got another dark shadow right in here. And then it's actually got a little bit of reflective, and then it goes into dark again. So I'm just accentuating those again, and by adding a thin layer of this burnt sienna, it just kind of naturally creates a glaze on it. So that's one easy way to kind of get a darker look without applying a lot of paint. And I'm going to darken up over here. Now, another thing to point out is I do paint standing up. And the reason why I paint standing up is most of the time, I should say, most of the time I paint standing up. So that way I can back away from my painting, and it just creates more movement, because if you get kind of all hunched over, it's not exactly good for your back. So this way, I'm trying to stand up straight and improve my posture. But sometimes, you know, I get a little slouchy and I get into it, and then, you know what happens? Oh, you get these little cricks, and then you gotta pop them. So I know nobody really appreciates the popping noise. Okay, here we go, here we go, here we go now. Let's see, get back into this. All right. Let's smooth that transition in. Okay. Now, what I'm thinking is, I want to start looking at it more in terms of tones. So like what I see here, I've got like a lot of dark happening over here. To balance that out, what I'm thinking is maybe I need a little bit of dark over here. So what that's going to do is it's going to create a triangle right there. See what I'm saying? So we got like a triangle. And that's kind of cool because it's not directly in the middle. So I'm going to darken that up and control the viewer's eye, because viewers' eyes are also drawn to light. So they're drawn to hard edges and light. How you create the hard edges can be driven by the light, or it could be driven by the dark. Okay, so it's really kind of whichever one you go, but they kind of both play in there. It depends on how you think about it. So I've got my dark over here, got a little bit of patch of light there. I'm okay with that. I think I want to darken this corner up over here. So I need to lift up my panel just a touch so I can get to it. Whoops. I apparently put too much weight into that. Okay. Ha! Alright, here we go. Alright, I'm going to darken this edge over here. Okay. Right here, and I'll do the same right in here. So I'm just kind of adding a little bit of dark. Okay. I'll smooth out that transition. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do is because I want this area right here to be called, it's the diffused. It's leaning into the background. I want the focus to kind of go up over this way. So I'm going to actually make it darker up over here and blend it into the light. So that way this will start to show a little bit better. My hard diffuse light, my hard highlights will diffuse into the light background. Okay. So let's see here. A little bit of McGill. Sorry, a little bit of Gamsol. I'm already thinking about that glazing. I want that McGill, and my nose itches, and I need to pull my hair back. Okay, it's getting serious. Okay. All right, I'm gonna darken it up here. Oh yeah, now it's starting to come alive. Come alive. And diffuse this down here, blending it slightly, darkening it up. I don't want so much attention down here. I think it might add a little bit of dark right there, like the fold is coming down. Okay. There we go. Building up those highlights and lowlights. Yeah, loving that, loving that, loving that. All right. Right in here. Yeah. And this is probably already dry right in here because we're painting so thinly using our Gamsol. Okay, I'm gonna add another little layer here. And I'm gonna softly blend into that, creating a soft edger, a little bit more of a soft edge right there. Because let's face it, the edge of the towel, it's not that important. What's important is what's going on with our eggs. So by blending things softly into each other, like that, it's removing the focus. See how I'm pulling the paint right over the top of that? I just so easily just created that diffused edge. Yeah? All right. Now what I'm not liking that I'm saying up here is I'm not ready to just show a lot of brush strokes yet. So I'm going to smooth that down a little bit. And what fell over was my bucket of paintbrushes. I apparently had too many in there. Okay. So, got one. Alright, so I'm gonna soften these a little bit. My brush strokes. Another thing that helps with standing up is notice how far back I am. I am like, got my hand on the edge of this like that. And this is a mop brush. It's actually a watercolor mop brush. But once you use it for oils, you can't really use it for anything else. So it makes a perfect blending brush. interesting light happening back in there. Okay, I'll make a little bit of Gamsol with that. Suck Bennett, and I'm going to continue on in that background. And I'm going to gently go over this. I will call back out that highlight there. Just not a moment. Okay, let's see. I'm going to reconstitute my highlight in the background just a little bit. This one right here. Right there. Yeah. So I've got like a nice diffused edge kind of happening back in here, and I might pull out that highlight just ever so slight. Right there. Yep. Okay. All I'm doing is lifting off some of the paint. It's already drying pretty quick. Okay. Another brush here. Got it. Okay. So by doing what I just did, by bringing into the background and bringing it lightly over to this, I've created that diffused edge, that soft edge, that edge that goes into the background. I've got some nice hard edges happening in here. I'm pretty happy about. I haven't touched any of the highlights in here. I like what's kind of going on here. I might even accentuate it a little bit because by making a little bit more of highlights going on around here. And because that paint's already dry, one of the ways I can accentuate those highlights is adding in some shadows. So we're really going to focus on, at this point, some of those details that exist in the towel itself. So moving to a much smaller brush, I'm now going to actually start defining some of those little divots. Okay, so I'm going to take my smaller brush and I'm going to take my ruler, use it as a maul stick. I'm going to start defining some of these little divots. You don't have to do them all. So I've got like a line coming here, a line coming there, a line there, there, there. And this one's starting to come up big here. Doot, doot. Okay, suddenly that area has focus. because it has detail. Okay, I'm going to also work on this little area down in here. Right here. The other thing to keep in mind when you're making these dots, they get smaller in the background and they get a little bit larger as they come into the foreground. Okay. But if you also notice, I'm trying to follow some sort of pattern that makes sense to me. It doesn't necessarily have to match the image itself completely, but it just needs to make sense. So like, you know, this one's going, it's kind of curving around, round, 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 and then it's kind of tailoring off into here. So just trying to keep almost equal distance. And some are going to get a little bit bigger because they're going to be more exposed. They might get a little skinny. Okay. So some of these I am going to go back and just soften the edges a little bit. So what I can take is a small dryer brush, just a small dry brush, like this, Okay, and I'm just going to soften these just a tiny bit. So if you notice, what I'm focusing in on is the edge of the paint. Just blending that in just a touch. Again, because you're going to have a hard edge and a soft edge everywhere you go. Hard edge, soft edge. See that? Notice something else that I just did there. So what I did is I gently blended it up into the egg. So it almost looks like it's folding into the egg because this is a textured towel. So it has little ridges and stuff. So by placing one of these little dots kind of right next to it, I'm able to then kind of pull it up, and that naturally gives it that ridge look. I'm going to continue on because I do want some of those little dots to show in here because it is closer to us. So I'm going to have some of these into here, but I am going to keep them fairly blended because I don't want the focus to be there. Keeping the hard edges kind of to a minimum there. And I'm going to soften the edges just a touch. Okay, and the further I go into the distance, the closer they're going to appear together. Okay. I'm going to take care of this area up in here in just a little bit. And this one, I'm not going to worry quite so much about all the little divots. See how much more detail this has gotten and more realistic that it's gotten since our last, since where we started actually. That's just because we're adding a little bit of details. Oops. Darken that up a little bit up from there. Okay, I might darken this up in here. Okay. I might just add a few little hints of those little divots over here. And really, this is going to be our highlighted area, so I'm going to add a whole bunch of divots because I don't want to be able to see all of them. Actually, I'm going to darken that up in there a little bit. It's a little bit too light for my taste because again, I want my eye to kind of want it to go up and around. So I'm going to soften this a little bit with darkening it up. effectively adding a very thin layer of burnt sienna. Now I can still see my graphite lines in my painting, and I'm okay with that right now. I will, when I glaze on, I'm going to be adding more paint on top of this, and so you're going to be able to see less and less line. And it may take a couple layers of paint, and that's totally fine. With this type of painting, one of the really the fabulous things about it is if I feel like I'm going to screw it up, I know I can pause and stop on it, wait for it to dry, and then the next round push it a little further. Because with oil paint, there is a way to erase, and how you erase is you just add a little bit of Gamsol to your brush, a nice clean brush, and you erase. I mean, you've been doing that by pulling off the lights. That's erasing. So it won't pull off the dried paint that's already there. So that's one of the great things about this layered painting approach, is you can really take it as far as you're comfortable with one day, wait for it to dry, and then push it again another day. And that's going to show you how far you can take things. And you'll be surprised at how far you can take it. Okay, so today I think I'm done playing with this. I'm happy with the details. I'm happy with how dark things have gotten and how light things have gotten. I'm happy with this nice contrasting edge right here. That's my highlight. I've got a nice highlight going here, some nice highlights going in here and up around here. So it's kind of leading their eye up and around. I like that. Okay. So you guys go ahead and start painting. When you feel like you're at a good stopping point and you're worried about screwing it up, stop and just let it dry. And then push it further another day or so. Okay, so that's about it. Have fun painting.